I started to reevaluate what was important for life, which was about me optimizing my health.
You're listening to episode 143 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Darryl Edwards. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we help you create an awesome life and lifestyle. From nutrition to fitness, mindfulness to peak performance, and relationships to money mindset, we bring you on an amazing journey to help you unleash your human potential. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Darryl Edwards. He's a natural lifestyle educator and the creator of the Primal Play Method. Darryl developed the Primal Play methodology to inspire others to make activity fun while getting healthier, fitter, and stronger in the process. Darryl is the author of several award-winning books, including Paleo Fitness and the bestseller Animal Moves. You can find him all over social media, from Facebook to Twitter to Instagram, which we will have in the show notes. And also, Darryl will be sharing a lot more of his story with you. So what I want you to do now is strap in your seatbelts, because we go a little long in this one, and if you have to split it into two sections, please do that, because you don't want to miss any of this. His story is quite amazing, and so is the rest of the show. So dive in, and here is Darryl Edwards. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lifestyle Locker Radio. As you heard in the bio, we have Darryl here. This guy is going to blow your mind. We're going to talk about movement and fun and play. Right, Darryl, welcome.
Oh, thanks very much, Josh. That was a great introduction, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, this is going to be good. And I'm an active guy. Like, just before this call, I got back about 45 minutes ago. I ran, since you're in the UK, I ran probably like 5.5K to the gym. I did a lot of functional moving around, throwing tires, jumping, and all sorts of stuff. Ran another 5.5K back, took a shower, ate a little bit, and now we're here talking. So I love movement, and I know this is your specialty. But you didn't just come out of school, hey, listen, I'm going to start teaching people how to play and have a good time and teach fitness, right?
Yeah, you're right about that. When I left school, or university, as we say here, so it's interesting. In the US, when people say school, they're usually talking about university, graduating from university, whereas here, school is pre-university.
Okay.
Prior to university. But so yeah, when I left university, I trained to be a computer scientist. I wanted to be a programmer. I was very serious about being a geek and a nerd, and knowing the anatomy of a computer inside out, and being able to manipulate it with all the ones and zeros that I needed to make that happen. And I worked for Microsoft back in the 90s. So we're talking kind of Windows 95 for the audience that remember. Started up, I don't know if you remember, the Rolling Stones. There was a big announcement for Windows 95, and Rolling Stones announcing the launch of that. But yeah, I worked for Microsoft back then. And at the time, if you can imagine, tech companies didn't pay very much, which is just, we couldn't even envisage that today, where today they're probably the best payers on the planet. Back then, they didn't pay very much. It was a case of, you're working for us, you're privileged to do so. So I worked for Microsoft for a while, and then I got headhunted by an investment bank. So I started working in finance. Banks started to invest in technology in a big way to improve their competitiveness. And so I was one of the first who started working in investment banking, started developing and building tech for traders, for front office traders, to make lots of money for the bank. And I had a career for around 20 years within that industry.
Okay.
And fortunately, I became very, very successful. Fortunately, there were very few people who could do the work I was doing. It was a very cutthroat, everything you can imagine about investment banking, in the worst possible ways, in terms of, in the positive, it's a meritocracy. In the negative, they demand their pound of flesh. So you can get paid the earth, but they want the earth from you. And so I was sitting 16 to 18 hours a day, pretty much every single day of the week. I was responsible for systems known as Follow the Sun. So we would follow the sun. So in other words, London was in the kind of the noon, was the middle of the day. And so you'd be working for the Far East, Hong Kong, and also for New York, wherever the markets were opening around the world, in Sydney. Yeah,
Wow.
that's basically my window of being available to work. So that's pretty much 24 hours a day.
Yeah, wow, that's
Um,
insane.
yeah, it was pretty insane, but I relished it. I enjoyed it. Sleep was for wimps. Until I got told that annual health check, I was told I was suffering from kind of early onset chronic lifestyle disease, I like to call it. So pre-diabetic, I had very high risk of cardiovascular disease. So I was told certainly within the next 5 to 10 years, you had a very high risk of a heart attack
And
or a
how old were
stroke.
you?
I was then sort of mid 30s at the time.
Wow, that's
So
I
very
want to
young.
paint that picture for people because
Yeah.
they can't see you yet until we share the video, but you're saying cardiovascular disease, pre-diabetic in your 30s.
Yeah,
That's serious.
pre-diabetic, hypertension, so very high, severe high blood pressure, um, and a whole host of other issues. Chronic low back pain. I was anemic. I mean, yeah, there was a whole smorgasbord of problems.
Mm.
And so when I asked for the solution, I was told not to worry. We have some statins to manage your cholesterol because your lipid profile is off. So we've got some statins for that. We've got some beta blockers for your blood pressure. So that will help to lower your blood pressure. We can give you some metformin to control your blood sugar,
Oh, geez.
your blood glucose. We can keep you on a cocktail of meds for your low back pain. And it was like, okay, this is all great, but how long for? When will I be fixed? This isn't a short-term fix. This is a long-term problem. You'll be on these meds for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Okay, what about side effects? If there are any side effects, we'll swap it out with something else. So is there another way? Is there an alternative? I wasn't given much of an answer in relation to that. I was told, you're getting older, you're in a very stressful environment, plus you have very close relatives who also have similar issues. There are type 2 diabetics in the family, for example. So yeah, that's probably what this is all about. It's just hitting you a little bit younger than other family members. So the one thing I remember during that conversation, the only thing I knew about my health status was that physical activity, exercise, could lower blood pressure, could be used as an intervention to manage blood pressure. So I was like, okay, I know I'm not very active. I go to the gym every now and again, but it's not a regular thing. Maybe I need to start being more active. And that's what I did. I joined the gym. I religiously started working out, and my blood pressure came down. Even staying within that very stressful environment, I had an outlet that meant I was kind of managing my stress in a much better way.
Yeah.
And my blood pressure came down, and my blood sugars started coming down without changing my diet. So I didn't really know anything about diet at that point. So my blood pressure came down, my blood sugars were starting to normalize. I wasn't feeling so, immobilized by my back pain. So, things started to get better for me. And I started to reevaluate what was important for life, which was about me optimizing my health and avoiding the meds for as long as I could. So I didn't know if I could avoid the medication. And I was taking regular tests every 30 days initially, then every sort of 60 days, every 90 days, and now annually, because I wasn't sure. I was like, Doc, if this doesn't continue to work, I'll do whatever you say, right? But if I can do anything via lifestyle, let's see how far we can push this. And so fortunately, 15 plus 16 years on from then, I haven't had to resort to medication. I have really good biomarkers of health now.
Very
And
cool.
about 6 or 7 years ago, I decided it was time to leave banking and to follow my passion. So my passion became physical activity and movement. Nutrition was a secondary passion, but movement was certainly what I felt the most passionate about, and wanted to teach others how to reclaim their health via lifestyle, and recognizing that movement was a significant part of that transition and transformation for me.
That's so cool. Well, you're in the right place, man. I love this. This is you are in the lifestyle locker now, right? Transforming your life.
For
And
sure.
some cool science that we teach our patients. I'm a full-time chiropractor besides being a podcaster. When we look at lifestyle, like you talk about cardiovascular disease and all of these things, these are lifestyle diseases. Like
Yes.
between 5 and 30% may be genetic. I
Yes.
like to lean towards that 5%.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Between 70 to 95% is our lifestyle choices, the stuff we do every day, play,
Yes.
food, relationships, all of those things are going to lead us in that right direction. So, I mean, you had to find out the hard way, but
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
it's burned in good now, right?
I found it the hard way, but fortunately I had an early warning. It was an
Yeah.
amber warning rather than a red. And
Yeah.
so it was at the right time to be
Mhm.
able to reverse and to reclaim as much of my health potential as possible. So of
Yeah.
course, if I'd have spent most of my 20s and 30s living a healthy lifestyle, I'm sure I'd be in a healthier position now today. But of course, you can't turn back the clock.
Yeah, of
What you
course.
can do is make the best decisions from this point going forward. And so I was fortunate enough to have that spotlight on me where I could say, let's see if I can do something about this. Let's assess if this is effective or not. Let's support my physical activity with nutrition, by thinking then about sleep, thinking then about other lifestyle pillars that became increasingly important as I learned more about living a healthier lifestyle. And the kind of ancestral, for me, the ancestral template, the paleo template, which is what I initially adopted, that informed me as to the behaviors that I wanted to adopt going forward.
Yeah.
Not just dietary, but in terms of the entire lifestyle. What does evolutionary biology tell us about my organism, about myself as a human being, and what I should be doing in terms of interacting with my environment, matching with my environment rather than a mismatch. So that became the kind of satisfying my intellect aspect of it,
Yeah.
far more than the romanticizing
Yeah.
the
Of course.
Stone Age. It became a case of saying, okay, what does science tell us about this? What does science tell me about some of the changes that I've witnessed myself, which I don't believe is just anecdotal. I don't believe it's just me being fortunate to benefit from these changes. So then you realize there is science supporting this. And so for my health state back then, or lack of health state back then, being pre-diabetic, we know the more sedentary you are, the less active you are, the more likely you are to suffer from insulin resistance. It increases your risk of metabolic dysfunction, metabolic syndrome. You're more likely to suffer from type 2 diabetes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just from a glucose metabolism point of view and glucose homeostasis, you're more likely to suffer from elevated blood glucose, from hyperinsulinemia if you're sedentary.
Mm-hmm.
So just becoming more active, just letting my muscles take on board all of that sugar that was floating around my body, that was a significant part of the solution for me. And for those who are interested in this, if you exercise, especially if you do resistance training, more so than just aerobic, but post activity, 72 hours, after 72 hours post activity, you become more insulin sensitive. So you need less insulin to do the job to force, energy or blood glucose into the cell. So those areas became very interesting for me. It kind of was an endorsement as to why is this beneficial? What else can I do? So things like my lipid profile, for example, again, significant research that you can improve your lipid profile just through physical activity without changes to diet. So not saying that you shouldn't change your diet and you should only rely on movement. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're already eating to improve your health, then adding a significant amount of the right type and quality and variety of movement will just support and harness whatever you're doing through food. So you can improve your lipid profile. You can lower triglycerides. You can, lower chronic inflammation markers like homocysteine, C-reactive protein, and the like. So all of these things that we're trying to address, some of us just via one mechanism, there are other mechanisms that we can utilize, and one of them, and probably one of the most important, should be movement.
Yeah.
So my blood pressure came down, my blood glucose normalized, so I had a normal A1C rather than being pre-diabetic. My fasting glucose was great. My inflammatory markers came down. My lipid profile improved significantly. My doctor said it was optimal when we did our first set of bloods, actually, is what he said to me. And so that gave me a lot of confidence to forge forward. And today, I still have regular checkups once a year. I've just not long had my bloods done again. And, there's always a little bit of anxiety, thinking, maybe this year, I wonder if this year is going to be any different. But fortunately, touch wood, I've had really good progress year on year. And I'm still maintaining a really good health status based on whatever test that I'm doing at the moment. So pretty good news. But more important than all of that is the fact that I can now help others do the same. So I can inform people as to how they can integrate more healthful movement into their lives.
Yeah, this is interesting because I want to step back for a second. So do you have the same physician that you had when you were like, oh my God, my health is falling apart, to where you are today?
No, I don't actually. I back then when I was in banking, I had it was a private GP. So in the UK, we have universal healthcare. Then I could afford private healthcare. Now I rely on the National Health Service. So I go to my GP. He does his batch of tests. I request a few more if there are any concerns, and that's what I do. So I don't really pay for any additional tests unless there was a need to kind of, But
I was just curious to see, what the guy's face would look like,
today,
from today compared to then.
So what's interesting was after the first test was done, and he went away on holiday to the Maldives. So that gives you an idea of how much money he was making. So he was going for a 3-week holiday in the Maldives to relax. And he said, if the results come back and if there's anything of concern, I will call you whilst I'm on holiday. So of course, 10 days in, 2 weeks in, I get a phone call and I'm like, oh my goodness, this isn't good news. But he called to say, what's happening here? What have you?
Love that.
Are you getting meds from somewhere else? What have you? Who else have you been to see? No one. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just doing some exercise and
moving my legs and my arms and my body.
and so he was just like, when I get back to London, we need to have a chat. I'm a little bit concerned. I don't understand what's happening. So the great thing was he started to do research, in this particular area, and make recommendations to his patients around lifestyle changes. So the last time I saw him, which is kind of a few years on from that point, he was way down the rabbit hole and doing far more lifestyle interventions and looking at disease prevention.
That's good. It's not very heard of. I don't really hear that frequently, but that's really great to hear.
It is for sure. So the good news is that incident changed the health practitioner's approach to managing not only myself but also other patients. And then a few years on from that, I was privileged to be involved in a clinical trial looking at So basically, the trial was based on premature babies. So premature babies who are in their middle ages, and basically, if you're premature and survive to your middle ages, you're more likely to be type 2 diabetic, more likely to be obese, more likely to have fatty liver disease. Mm-hmm. So I was just part of the study, and it was remarkable. I mean, it was the most comprehensive bit of research or analysis that could ever be done on anyone. It was full body scans, head to toe, MRI scans. It was muscle biopsies, full set of gut hormone analysis being done, full set of bloods. I mean, it was like pints of blood being taken out of me. It was just, I mean, remarkable, the information that they wanted to glean, and looking at the effects of different types of foods, doing fMRI scans. So, you'd look at the cream cake and you'd see how your gut hormones would be affected by that. I mean, it was remarkable. But one of the things that we found out was, one, again, that I was still very an anomaly in terms of my health status. And secondly, that I didn't fit into that mold, because I was a premature baby. So I didn't fit into the mold as to what they would expect of somebody of my age many years on. And they were also very surprised by the lifestyle that I was living. You must be exercising, you must be doing so much exercise. Actually, not that much. Your diet must be, are you a vegan? Are you plant-based? Actually, no. I don't, oh, your bones are so strong. Do you have lots of dairy? Actually, no, I don't do dairy. Oh my goodness, this is, you're avoiding all these food groups. So there was all this concern, but I was like, why are you concerned if my health markers you're telling me are incredible, and you want to find out more about my lifestyle? Then obviously me not doing dairy is not a problem, right? Is or me not consuming grains isn't an issue if you're telling me that I don't have any issues, any health issues at that point. So having that external spotlight has been very useful for me, because I've always wanted that validation. I didn't want to fall into the trap of just going, because I've found this path, everything's going to be fine and always will be. I'm like, maybe I need to double check this. Maybe, it's now 5 years on, it's now 10 years on, it's now 15 years on. Is everything still okay? Touch wood, it still is.
Yeah. I mean, and like we said, the lifestyle choices are the things that are going to either bring you closer to like optimal health and performance, or sickness, disease, and death. You get
Yes.
to choose which one you want to go, which road you want to go on.
Thanks for being so morbid, Josh. That's exactly, but it's true, right? We have a lot of control as to, there are some things we can't control, obviously, but what we can control, a large part of that is what we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we, our access to the outdoors, our exposure to toxins. So all these things that we do have relative control over. And a long time ago, I remember saying to myself, I just want to be, if something does happen, because hopefully nothing will. Hopefully I'll live long and then just drop dead, But if that doesn't happen, I feel that at least I'll be in the strongest position possible. So the great thing about looking after yourself and living a healthy lifestyle is, if anything does befall you, you'll be in a much better position. If I need surgery, I'm more likely to survive the surgery. If I have a heart attack, I'm more likely to survive. I'm more likely not to have a secondary heart attack. I'm more likely to be in a much better position. So I would never want to pretend that everything's perfect, that my lifestyle behavior is perfect, that I'm going to live forever, that, nothing.
I thought you looked like Superman, though.
Well, actually, you know what? I'm not even, I wouldn't even want to be Superman. I'd prefer to be Clark Kent. Yeah. Because Clark Kent is just as strong as Superman, but no one knows.
Exactly.
So that I prefer Clark Kent, because he wears glasses, he looks like a geek, he doesn't look like there's anything. He's not charismatic. There's nothing to him really. Mm-hmm. But yet he's under the glasses. He's formidable. He's the man of steel. Yeah. So we should all, we've all got our own superhero inside of us, and whatever that is, whatever that superhero is, whoever they are, that's what you want to bring, kind of reveal and have manifest itself.
So I wanted to touch on one other thing that's really interesting. Was this? I want to get into a little bit more about this, your play, the Primal Play. But when we talk about movement in general, what I'm not sure if everyone listening, have you even thought of this? Your body is moving at the atomic level nonstop.
Yes, right? I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, that's
right.
What makes
so why should we be sitting on our rear ends all day for 10, 12, 15 hours at a job? Listen, I understand you need to make money. I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things. but there are things you can do to be proactive. And I know you have articles and things on that as well, being active in the workplace type of thing. But
Yes.
this is a reality. Like, we are going to get sicker as a society with awesome technology if we don't
Yes.
take care of ourselves as a human species.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we are definitely more sedentary now than ever before in human history. There are no, if you look at populations around the world, whether they are traditional societies or modern day societies, or hunter-gatherer societies, farming communities, those who live in the blue zones, those who just tend to live long and healthy lives with very short morbidity, then what they have in common certainly is a high level of physical activity, not necessarily exercise, but they certainly are moving
Yeah, without a doubt.
a significant amount. They are functional and capable individuals up until much later in life. A significant part of their time as a youngster and as adults involved movement. So it's no surprise that we are suffering from the kind of dominant, we call this the information age, and I think it's the age of the chair, actually. I think the chair has become more an important prop than even technology.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's a chair or the seat which makes us feel really comfortable about using a lot of this digital tech. It's like I feel much better doing this if I'm sitting down. I can order my food, I can arrange my life, I can socialize, I can date, I can work out what my workout program is going to be.
Yeah, like, you don't even need to work. You don't need to do anything. You just sit on your rear end all day, sit on your ass all day, and
it's possible to do. And I think the body, our human bodies are very good at adapting to external stimuli, and part of that external stimuli will be being sedentary and saying to your body, I don't need this muscle mass, this lean body mass anymore. I will lose that muscle mass because it's expensive to maintain. So my muscles will atrophy, my bones will become weaker because I don't need to support my body weight in the same way.
Yeah,
taking me from A to B and to support lift heavy or whatever. So if you tell your body it's perfectly fine not to move, your body will, in a short space of time, decide that that's the best way for you to be. Then you will suffer the consequences of that, of feeling aches and pains, of feeling fatigue, of generating, chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation around the body, increasing the amounts of adipose tissue, of fat tissue, again promoting pro-inflammatory markers. And so before you know it, even though you won't feel the immediate effects of being sedentary, it will creep up on you. And then there'll be a point where you go, oh my goodness, why is this happening to me? So I'm sure you've seen the memes saying you can't outrun a poor diet. It's 80% abs or 80% what's in the kitchen and 20% what you do in the gym and all. It's like movement isn't that important. It's more about the diet. Well, here's a controversy. We need to flip that completely on its head. I don't believe diet is more important for a health point of view than movement. And the reason I say that is because if you think about the majority of our time on this planet, if we couldn't move to obtain that food, we wouldn't get it. So the priority from an evolutionary point of view was the human body's ability to be able to navigate our environment, to be able to source and obtain nutritious food, and to bring that back to camp to feed our tribe.
Yeah.
So that was the most important aspect of the whole food cycle, getting it.
Yeah.
And
I think you mentioned something very important. You said nutritious, and that is harder to find now than ever before.
It sure is. So, many humans died finding out what was nutritious, right? There was somebody, the first person to decide, oh, look at all these mushrooms. Somebody had to die for picking the wrong one, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody decided, maybe we need to take a note of, that person's dead, that person's really sick, that person's slightly sick, that person's looking really good. Okay, those are the mushrooms we need to eat.
Exactly.
and whatever all the other foods.
Exactly.
So we built up a significant amount of knowledge and wisdom as to what's nutritious, as to what's appropriate for the human species. And of course, today in the 21st century, we still have access to many of those nutritious foods, but we also have the dominant foodstuffs out there, unfortunately, are highly processed, refined,
Garbage.
nutrient poor, energy rich foods, which unfortunately our body is primed to choose. It's like, oh my gosh, look at those colors. Oh my gosh, look at those textures. Oh my gosh, how satisfying are those foods immediately? Oh my gosh, more. It's difficult to say no. And again, just like a lack of movement, the body can seem to just be okay for a while. I'll eat fast food for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, don't really notice any immediate impact.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the body will tell you at a certain point, enough is enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a dangerous world that we live in, because the environment, encourages us, it seduces us to make unhealthy.
That's a good word.
Yeah, it's seductive. It isn't purely down to willpower. It isn't down to just being lazy. So it's like it's everyone's responsibility to sort their lives out. I don't think it is. It's very difficult to navigate this terrain where evolutionary cues are saying that's what you should be gravitating towards. You used to see that food stuff once in a blue moon. Now you can see it every couple of seconds. Now you can go to your vending machine and get it. Now you can walk to your refrigerator and get all that juicy, incredible stuff, and so it's difficult for us to make the best decisions all of the time. Yeah. It's difficult. So movement is one of those things. It's like, I remember the couches that my mother used to have when I was a kid. They weren't that comfortable. The chairs we used to sit on weren't very comfortable, right? You'd be shuffling. The chairs at school weren't very comfortable. Now chairs, you'd buy a sofa now, like it's like a bed. It's almost like it cocoons you into this, oh, doesn't this feel great? Just stay here for a little bit longer. Like, so yes, sofas have become like, the most comfortable of habitats. Whereas before there would be a temporary, let's have a family gathering and sit for a while and have a chat. That's what they used to be for. Now it's about, let's see how we can make you stay here as soon as you get home until you go to bed. And if that sofa can be converted into a bed, then
just keep pushing the button.
Exactly. And if we can get a TV to kind of shoot at the sofa somewhere, we know what's coming next, right? We know this device will become the all singing, all dancing. We'll take you to work. You won't need to leave your chair. Just sit in your armchair, have breakfast, be transported to work, do your work.
They made a movie about that, actually. Remember the movie WALL-E?
WALL-E, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Great film. That's the direction I think that we're going in if we don't start to change things, right? That's what you're here to do, Darryl. That's why you're here, man.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's very, very true. It's a parody. It's a very dystopian view of the world, but we're already, in many respects, we're already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's get into Primal Play, because when you were going through your process of healing yourself, of changing your physiology, changing the way your body functions by changing how you moved. I'm sure you traditionally started off in a traditional gym, moving weights or whatever it may have been, maybe running on a treadmill. I don't know. But I know that's not where you are today. So what have you found? Because I know you studied, you said like the paleo move, like not only the nutrition part of it, but the actual, like they were hunting and gathering, they were playing, they were doing things in nature. So
my first book was called Paleo Fitness. That was published actually 6 years ago today. But thank you. I just had to throw that in there. But yeah, it's evolutionary biology and evolutionary fitness became an interest of mine. And so I decided very early on in my journey that if what our ancestors did on the kind of big scale, the big picture scale, If the environment they were in led us to here, where we are now, and we need to model some of those behaviors, the most helpful of those behaviors, then movement would be a part of that. And so if my gym experience is a very refined, one-dimensional approach to movement and physical activity, and exercise, which I now believe is like a supplement, it's a substitute, like a proxy for the lack of physical activity we used to get. So exercise, in my opinion, will never, ever be as potent a medicine as movement in all its various forms. The downside is it's difficult to get the amount of movement we need because, one, we don't need to do it to survive. And secondly, we have other demands on our time. We can't be spending our time moving all day. Not many of us can have the luxury of doing so. So exercise is a good stopgap. But unfortunately, most of us, when we choose to exercise, we are not thinking about what humans are capable of doing in their entirety. So the movement patterns we engage in should cover everything from, the most static and slow of movement patterns, right through to the most powerful and vigorous and intensive activity. So crawling, walking, running, sprinting, agility, balance, coordination, speed, stamina, all of that in all the different three-dimensional ways of movement that we can harness. Climbing, jumping, lifting, carrying. So if I go to the gym, oftentimes I'm just lifting. I might lift the weight and I might drop it. I don't even set it down. I don't even complete the second part of that movement pattern. So we wouldn't just lift something up back in the day just to say, hey, I just lifted something. You'd lift it to carry it. You'd kill, you pick it up, you take it to whatever the destination is. That would be the completion of the process. Whereas now we do it because, hey, I just want to lift something really heavy. We go for a run. Most of the times we don't do it because we need to get to a destination. We do it because it's an exercise.
Yeah.
So I think we're losing because we've lost the context as to why we should be moving. It's a refinement of the movement that we should be engaged in. So Primal Play came about because paleo fitness I felt was too elitist. Paleo fitness was just me thinking about how hard I could push myself, pretending to be, a caveman, and thinking about modern exercises which best mimicked that. When I started thinking about Primal Play, I decided, well, we do need to engage in these primal, instinctive, universal movement patterns because that's what makes us human. That's what made us human, and that's what helps us to continue to be human. And that's how we can optimize our function and quality of life by moving in this way. But we need to have a reason for doing this. And that reason, in my opinion, is making it fun and making it joyful. And so using play and play theory as the vehicle to help us to do more, to find these opportunities in a different way. So I rarely do a set workout anymore. I will literally navigate through my day and pick out different movement opportunities. I'm going to take a bus, I'll sprint against the bus. If I see a friend, sometimes I'll be like, hey, let me find and carry you and go for a run. I create games which mean that I can be more playful in general because I now have games where I can interact with other humans. I can climb a tree rather than doing a pull-up on a bar. So this approach to movement, I believe, is more fulfilling, is more holistic, more complete. Not because I'm saying my methodology is the best methodology to take part in, but just because I'm trying to think about all of the movement patterns we should be engaging in, why they're useful to us from a science point of view, why they're useful to our body in that sense, and also making sure the movements are not just about me, myself, and I. So movement, I can never move in isolation. What I mean by that is, for me, movement is always going to be me and my environment, not me and a piece of equipment. So for me, the gym, for example, is not the best place, the best environment for me to be moving in because it limits what I can do. If I'm outdoors, I almost have an infinite, set of gym props and gym equipment to utilize. It will never ever be the same. the temperature differences, the environmental differences, the wind resistance, the fact I've got access to different bacteria by crawling on the ground, getting some earth in my fingers. There's all these different stimuli that I encounter when nature is my gym, as opposed to another room with four walls. So that was the kind of the reason for developing Primal Play. It was a recognition of me not wanting to injure myself anymore, because that's what happened when I was doing the old way of, I just want to beat myself up. I want to be as performant as I can. And I got injured, and then I get depressed that I couldn't move because I was injured. Or I started to hate the process. So I would love being on the leaderboard and beating my peers, but I'd hate the 3 or 4 minutes of that workout of the day. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way I can enjoy this and enjoy the result and want to come again tomorrow, or do it again in 5 minutes if somebody wants to do it with me. So that's how Primal Play came about. And fortunately, I've had, I wanted it to be very inclusive and very diverse. And I wanted it to road test it with as many people as possible. So I've had track, athletes, elite athletes, endurance, track, Olympic lifters, footballers. I mean, you name it that have taken part, martial artists. But I've also had those who are very deconditioned. Those who are suffering with obesity, those who have mobility issues, multiple sclerosis, older adults, very young children, those recovering from injury. So I wanted to see if this solution could cater for all of those individuals without patronizing anyone, without anyone feeling as if, I could do more, but I'll just kind of rein it in a bit, or I can't do any more because I just don't feel as if fitness is part of my legacy. So as I said earlier, all of us have a superhero inside of us, and all superheroes have some kind of kryptonite, have some fatal flaw or weakness that we can't overcome. So if I'm 95, I cannot overcome being 95. I mean, I'm going to bear all of the scars and the war wounds and everything else that has taken me to 95 years old. But what I can do is make the best of whatever I can do at 95. And that's what I can focus on, right? So, and that's what a superhero does. Superman doesn't spend all his time going, oh, kryptonite. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do today? I'm not even going to go outside the house because I might actually see some kryptonite. It's just it's part of his life. He knows if he encounters it, he's probably going to die. He knows it's going to weaken him fatally, but there's all this other stuff that he can do. And that's how I view fitness now and movement. Like, there's all this amazing stuff that I can do, and there's all these stuff that I can't do that well, but who cares? Does it really add any value to my quality of life? Does it add joy to my life? No, yeah. I don't need to worry about it then.
So this is part happiness now too.
For sure, it has to be. I don't want to be at the end of my days saying, hey, one of the best things that I did was to clock up all that time on the treadmill. Or I'm not kind of discriminating against a treadmill, but I want to have more pleasurable experiences, and I want to assign my movement time with that pleasurable experience. So that's more interesting for me now. For example, I'll give you an example. My remote control, I always have it in really random parts of my room, right? I do watch TV. I do like box sets. I would love to say that I've abandoned my TV, and no, I have one. I sit on the floor. I sit in my chair. I sit on the sofa. I bear crawl to pick up my remote control. I sit in a squat. So I'm constantly moving around. I put it in places where it's difficult for me to find. So I'll spend 5 minutes going, where's this remote control? But I'll be crawling and jumping and climbing on the sofa. I'll be making that activity of sourcing my remote control another opportunity to exercise. And so I'm having, even though there's a frustration of like, oh, where's this remote control? I'm having so much fun finding it, and I'm getting a few minutes in of movement. And if I do that a few times a day, I might have 15 minutes in my day just looking for a remote control. But it's 15 minutes of movement of all different types. And I'll constantly change things. I'll roll sometimes. I'll jump sometimes. it's treating my living room like a kid would do, like a playground.
There we go.
And once you do that, you're always seeing movement opportunities. You can't sit still like many kids don't, right? It's like, sit still, sit still. So I've now regained that love for movement that I had as a kid, that nervousness, without being childish, right? I can be childlike. I can appreciate my environment. I can appreciate what my body can do.
Yeah.
And I can decide to do something which isn't the norm.
Yeah.
So why wait for the kettle to boil to make my green tea? Actually I can do something while that's happening. And that's what I would have done before. I would have sat there waiting for the 2 minutes or 3 minutes for my kettle to boil.
Yeah.
Back to brew. Whereas actually there's that 2 or 3 minutes worth of movement opportunity right there.
Yeah.
So
that's neat.
Yeah.
So how do people actually participate? I mean, is there, do you do things with them people individually? Do they connect with you socially? Do they buy books or do courses? Like it's a neat, I love the concept. I really think it's an amazing concept because
Thank you, Josh.
So I think it's so natural, like I'm a runner. I enjoy running. And I apply to do crazy races, usually never on the road. Usually they're in nature just so I can just experience nature. But I love the concept of, maybe like on my runs now, if I pass a tree that looks like a pull-up bar, go do 10 pull-ups or, oh, it's a cool rock. Let me jump up and down that rock 10 times and then come back, type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how do people participate?
So primalplay.com is probably the best place to find out, as much about me as you would like to. So I do have some online courses. My last book was called Animal Moves, which really goes into detail about this kind of philosophy around moving like the humans that we're supposed to be, i.e. the animals we're supposed to be, the movement patterns that we should be engaging in, recognizing that humans are not very adept at a particular movement pattern, apart from walking, actually. Everything else, we are far inferior to most other animals on the planet. For example, lifting heavy. If we can lift 2, 3 times, 4 times our body weight, we are incredibly strong. But ants can lift up to 100 times, some up to 1,000 times their body weight.
Can't even,
so we're pretty
can't even imagine.
Right? Imagine that, right? If you think we're pretty fast, Usain Bolt, if you think he's a fast human, but wild sheep can outrun Usain Bolt. Camels can outsprint Usain Bolt, right? So we're pretty slow in comparison, and that's not even thinking about like the big cats, like the cheetah.
Yeah.
Right? So we're pretty slow. We can't climb as well as the best of the primates, right? And I could go on, right? We can't jump very far in comparison, say, a kangaroo or a flea even, right? Yeah. A flea can outjump us in terms of size to distance ratio, right? So, but what humans do have is the ability to be incredible generalists. We can do all of those movement patterns: crawl, climb, jump, run, sprint, walk, lift, carry. We can all do those things, but as masters of none. Jack of all trades, masters of none. So Animal Moves, the book, explores that and has a workout program and a play out program that you can explore that sort of journey and partake in all these movement patterns, which I believe to be very beneficial for us. And online courses supporting that. In terms of social media, I'm known as the Fitness Explorer. So you can search a Fitness Explorer on Instagram, Twitter, and the like, and you'll get access to some of the crazy stuff that I do. And the last project I've been working on has been the Animal Moves fitness deck. So I have a bunch of fitness cards for adults, for kids. If you're in the office, actually, I will. This is just released about a week or so ago. So this is something that you can get now, and you can randomize your workouts or your playouts wherever you are.
It's an actual deck of cards.
Yeah, it's an actual deck of cards.
That's so cool.
And you shuffle. You might decide, I want a movement snack. So you say, right, I've got 2 minutes. What can I do? I'm at a standing desk. What can I do? And you've got some cards and lots of different activities on. I mean, I probably should do it that way. So so that's the office-based one. And this doesn't assume that you have access to the floor. So if you're in a chair or you're standing and you don't want to change into workout wear, then this is what this deck will enable.
That's such an awesome idea. And I want to plant the seed. You need to probably do something because, when people are hanging out, having a good time, there has to be a card game, like, right?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, it's what was really interesting is when I launched this last year, and the amount of families that were telling me they were buying them for Christmas as stocking fillers, and then after Christmas dinner or whatever, they would play the animal moves deck to kind of burn off some of the Christmas excesses. So I think movement again. When you think about most of those games, post part, celebration games, they tend to be quite sedentary oftentimes.
Yeah.
Right. Board games, whereas charades or something like that, that's a bit more active. But there's always ways to think about becoming more active without taking up any more time.
And having fun, playing.
Having fun and playing. And play, just one thing to add in terms of the science of play. So endorphins, we release post-activity normally. And they're a natural painkiller. That's one of the things that endorphins do. So you have a natural high. It helps you feel better about arduous physical activity. That's why it's produced. And one of the reasons why it's produced. But our levels of endorphins actually are elevated if two of us are working out together. So if two of us are cooperating, so I don't mean like two of us going for a run, if two of us are actually interacting and achieving an objective together, then we release more endorphins. We feel better about the
community,
about the
right?
Results. Yes, it's the community. Yeah. We feel as if there's less exertion. So it's another reason why we can tend to achieve more. And most people feel it's about competition, but it isn't. Just the fact of us doing this together because we're social beings release more endorphins. So there's so many benefits of us moving like the humans we are, and not betraying the animals in us when we're moving.
Yeah, and that's powerful, and for everyone. I mean, the neuroscience of just human interaction is very powerful. The neuroscience of having fun while you're doing stuff with other people is very powerful. So I mean, there are so many added benefits to playing, so to say, doing getting one of these decks, and if you're in a cubicle space with like 4 or 5 people, hey, listen, let's take our 90-second break, whip out the cards, and then we just change it up. We just swap them out each time, and you can make fun out of a day of work and be more fit without having to say, hey, listen, I'm just gonna have one of those, which I laugh when I see those sit down chairs, but like those bicycles that go into the desk. Sure, you're moving your feet, but like, really, what is that doing? What is that doing? Come on. You still don't even have to get off your butt.
Yeah, exactly. You have to get off your butt. You're probably not getting out of breath. There's probably minimal elevation of your heart rate. Yeah. So again, it's more of an ego, massaging your ego, I think.
Yeah.
But if you're doing 10, 15 seconds of something quite vigorous in activity, you can still not, again, you don't have to get changed, you're not going to get in too many beads of sweat, but we should be getting out of breath. I think this is one thing I decided many years ago, at least once per day, I feel that we should be getting out of breath. We should be really utilizing our lungs, and even deep breathing now. I mean, think this really, we might even have a podcast in a few years, Josh, because this
2 years, we may have to do one like next week or something, man.
But deep breathing now has become about mindfulness, right? Let's actually reset, relax, and taking some deep breaths. And it's like, if that's the only time you're taking a deep breath, it then also demonstrates how inactive you are, how rarely you stress your cardiovascular system, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what the heck have we come to, whereby we're advocating deep breathing, and the only way of doing so by going in a dark room, listening to Enya, burning incense. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only time we can really exercise our lungs and improve our lung function. I'm like, no, like, just get out there and do something that's gonna really let you take some oxygen in. And even laughter, right? If you're doing something that's lots of fun and you're laughing, you're gonna have that. You're going to take
Yeah.
in huge amounts of oxygen, the energy the energy that we need. So
Yeah.
I just feel fairly pessimistic about a lot of the prescriptions that we're being given, whereby movement would probably cover a lot of those bases.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I'm not sleeping well. Well, actually, do you know if you were more active during the day, you'd sleep better at night.
Uh-huh.
You'll get to sleep even faster. You'll have more quality sleep. You'll have more deep sleep. You're more likely to wake up feeling refreshed. That's what happens if you're active. But
Uh-huh.
instead of telling people, hey, just be more active during the day, we will say, have more rituals at night. Drink chamomile tea and valerian tea, and burn some candles and have Epsom salt baths, blah, 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 blah. And it's almost like another Band-Aid. It's almost like let's look at the symptoms,
Yeah.
whereas actually root cause, or one of the root causes is, hey, just get up and move. Get
Yeah.
outside, boost your serotonin levels,
Yeah.
get some fresh air, really make your body feel as if it needs the repair and recovery mode of sleep for the
Yep.
next day.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're talking from the same hymn sheet, Josh, but
Yeah, I know. I agree. I
yeah, we
totally
need
agree.
more of this. Yeah.
Traditional medicine, if we think of it like a hammer, every person's a nail, and their only tools are drugs or surgery.
Yes.
That's their tools. So I think you, me, the people that I get to interact with on a daily basis, I'm sure the people that you get to, in this profession, if you will, of natural health and well-being, yeah, we have a big mission. I mean, there's a lot of people that need a lot of help and just don't know any different. And that's why you're here. I mean, that's why we're having this conversation.
Yes, for
Really.
sure. And the great news is that many of these changes are relatively simple and straightforward.
Yes.
And there are people like ourselves who can guide, who can assist and help. But ultimately, we're kind of passing on that knowledge, with a stabilizer wheels for a while, and then we can take ourselves away and say, hey, look, now you've got all these tools. You have this
Hmm.
tool set. Now you know what you can do to kind of push forward. So I'm just thankful in terms of my own journey and for the options to be able to help other people. Most of the best solutions for my clients have been where probably the simplest of interventions, right? Where it's like, let's just pare it down right back to the basics, let's get the fundamentals right, and then we can just tweak around the edges. But we have to start right with the foundation, and if we continue to do that, we'll all be healthier, right? Most of us, if we just did the basics, will be in a far healthier place,
Oh, without a doubt.
relying on the silver bullet of,
Yeah.
if I just take that supplement, everything will be fine. Like, really? Do you really think that one intervention is going to fix all of your ills? Movement is probably the closest to the poly pill, but
Yeah.
but yeah, we need to have a blended approach,
Yeah.
a holistic approach to ensure that we're relying on as many good inputs as possible to counteract many of the bad that we don't have any choice in
Oh,
relation
I
to.
agree. I agree. So Darryl, if you had to give three things, like I want our audience now that's listening to do three things today or tomorrow, depending on when they're listening to this. So if we're going to do quick things, they can do it all now. What three
Yes.
things can they do today to help unleash their human potential just a little bit more?
Um, Firstly, to recognize movement is also medicine. That's the first thing that they should realize. And once they realize that it's medicine, they should then work out what their daily dose should be. Okay, so if they're not moving at all, then they know they need to be moving at least for the minimum of 30 minutes per 5 days a week. So 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity and 2 days of resistance training is the recommendation as the sort of minimal baseline. And the third is, you want to make that sustainable. You want to make sure that that movement practice is something that you can continue. So it has to be fun, it has to be engaging, and try to involve other humans so that you're more likely to want to do it and push yourselves together. So those would be my top three things that you can do in relation to making sure movement is your medicine.
Awesome, Darryl. This has been an awesome conversation. Like you said, this is probably going to happen again because we're gonna have to tweak it a little bit and have a different or I shouldn't say tweak, we're going to have to pivot a little bit and have another
Pivot.
conversation on
Yeah, for
something
sure.
else,
No,
because there's a lot, right?
yeah,
Really
there is
good.
a lot, and but I think we've covered a lot of bases. So I know it's probably a little bit longer than we expected from the outset, but
That's
but
right.
truly, movement is truly one of the best. Humans demand it. Our DNA expects movement to occur. Our cells demand movement on a daily basis, and if we cut our cells off from movement, we are going to be increasing the risk of being in a disease state. And it's not just a physical, right? It's mental health as well. So that's also important. We have a cognitive benefit to movement as well as physical benefits.
Exactly. So everyone, if you want to find out more about Darryl, you're going to go to lifestylelocker.com/primal play. We'll have all his details, all his social handles. And I believe he does have a freebie. I think we have a book, don't we?
Yes. It's called The Importance of Play. So there'll be a link there somewhere along with all the other stuff that will be listed. Yep. There'll be a link there where you can download an ebook on the importance of play. So active play is just one way to make sure you can get more movement into your day. And being more playful means you can reduce stress, you can have more fun, and surely life is for enjoyment, right? Exactly. So yes, it's an extremely important part of humanity, which isn't just for kids. So that's what this book will discuss.
Great.
And the importance of play.
All right, everybody. So go and grab that. And Darryl, awesome time, man. I know we spent a little more than we thought, but that's all right, because great things come out of these conversations, and the thousands that are going to download and listen are going to absolutely love it. So
that's great. So yeah, so if you lasted all this way to the end of this podcast, then you're probably one of the few that can download the book, because you'll know where it is.
Yeah.
So there's always a benefit for persevering right through to the end. But exactly. Thanks all for listening, and Josh, you've been a fantastic host. So thank you so much.
All right, I am so glad you made it through this whole show. I know it was a long one, so I do apologize for that, but I really don't, because the content was so good. I kind of got lost in time when we get into these great conversations, and the amount of information that Darryl brings to the table is so important for the world we live in today. We need to move more, right? He says movement is medicine. And make sure you do connect with him on social media, and make sure you go ahead and get the book, The Importance of Play. He's got other books as well, which you can check out. But make sure you go to his website, which will be in the show notes. You can dive in and learn more through his whole website and through his social media handles, which will all be listed in the show notes for you. So I hope you did enjoy. I really did. So have a great day, evening, or night, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. And if you haven't yet given us a 5-star review, we would love them. And if you're listening from outside the U.S., iTunes loves you as well, so make sure you give those 5-star reviews. We'd greatly appreciate them, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, Locker Nation, peace out. Bye-bye.